So now we understand that service level agreement, we need to decide how much time we need, how much time we can afford, how much data we can lose, how much money are we willing to invest and make a decision. Then we will be deciding which way to go. We're speaking only about application today, and actually I want to speak only about database. I will explain to you now because we don't have time. If you want me to speak about other class, we have to do this again, and you will get the visa next time. And we said in Exchange Server 2000 and 2003 and 2000 and 2003, we had back end and front end. We didn't. That's the old thing. Back end is everything. Front end is only a proxy. In 2007, they decided to make separate, like make it more layered. So they had something called client access server, role actually, server role, and mailbox server role, and hub transport, and also they added something called HSync, and they added something like unified messaging, unified messaging server role. So I'm not going to speak about HSync, I'm not going to speak about unified messaging. It's a different subject. I'm just going to speak about the three main components. Mailbox server role in 2007 services two things. It hosts the database, so it's the database server, and it actually is used for internal client like users to get their mailbox. So if you file Outlook, you have to give the name of the mailbox server role to actually get everything, like to connect to it and the RPC connection. So it has two roles, database and client access for MAPI, which is the internal Outlook in the network. The client access server role was for Outlook Web Access, external Outlook clients, everything like ActiveSync, all of these things. And it was not a proxy like the front end. The front end was a proxy. It was just taking the request, rewrap it, send it back, and just acting as, okay, I'm taking this from here, just process it and give it back to me. Now the client access server is actually doing the processing for you. So everything when you go to Outlook Web Access, you go to the client access server. The processing is being happening here. Only the database is being bought from the mailbox server. The hub transport server is the routing mechanism. If you remember, we said if I have my mailbox here, transmail mailbox here, this server is supposed to know about this server, and it's supposed to know where is Trent mailbox. This is now all done by the hub transport. Just, I have an email, where should I send it? What should I do? External, internal, all of these things. So, I'm going to be speaking today about the mailbox server role replication, because this is what's the big issue. Like, it's the largest chunk of data. Like, I mean, recovering mailbox is really hard. If you have a database that's 100 gigabyte, and it's usual now, everywhere you go, it's going to take like 48 hours to restore from backup. For these things, we can speak about them if we have time. So, in Exchange Server 2003, we had only the cluster with shared storage. So it's called single copy cluster. And as I said, if this server dies, this one does nothing. It has no access to the data anymore. You have to recover this, and people have to wait for you to recover this. Not only the server dies, if the database gets corrupted on this server, you have to restore it from backup. And as we said, if the database is big, it will take time. What you can do always, you can have a dial tone, like if the database goes down, all what you need to do, shut down the service, like Exchange Server services, remove it to another place, the whole database, and start it again. Exchange Server will create an empty database, so people will come back online immediately, if you still have access to the server, of course. even the data has been moved, but you have an empty zero data, new database, but they will not see anything from the old emails. You have to get it back from backup and pull it back into their mailboxes. Now with Exchange Server 2007, they always listen. We always think of Microsoft or anyone like they think, they decide, and they come back and they say, okay, this is what you have to do. It's not that like that. They think, they decide, they make something, we try to sell it to you, no one buys it. Trent says, this is not very good. Kim says, I don't like it. They change. So they've been hearing complaints about the single point of storage for a long time. And they've been complaining about Jeff's point that you can't actually expand it to someone else. So they've listened. What they have done, they have invested a lot of money. I don't know how much money they paid for this, but I remember to move from Windows 2000 to from Windows 2003 to Windows 2008, I think it cost like 4 years and $1 billion just to develop Windows 2008. So this should have cost a lot of money too. So what they have done on the mailbox, on the database level, they came out with two concepts. The first concept is local continuous replication. No one liked this. No one actually ever implemented this. But it was an interesting concept. It's only if you have a single, and you have to remember, still in Exchange Server 2007, we have the database inside storage group all tied to the server. So you have one server, standalone. You can have two storage separated, let's say two LANs if we have SAN, or two iSCSIs, depends on your configuration. And what you do, like you can just connect them and have the data one here and the replica in here. But what they recommended us to do at that time is to have a mounting points for them, which is empty folders on the C drive of that machine that you actually go and mount this storage to, and this storage you mount it here. This will be your active data, so anything that you store on your Exchange server will be stored here, and it will be replicated here. And to replicate it, they started something called log shipping. We're going to speak about log shipping here. So what happens, you have big no here, which is you have only one server. You don't have a cluster. You can't have this on a cluster. And like no one liked it. It was like, yeah, everyone looked at it, maybe tried it in the lab. Maybe some, like a greenie administrator for 200 mailboxes did it, and he thought he did a great job, but when it crashes, you have to go and do it manually, and it actually takes time for it to respond, and it's just like, this did not fly. So let's forget about local continuous replication. The other thing that actually people liked, and it came on the first release, it came on the RTM release, was continuous cluster replication. Which is basically, they took the old cluster concept we were speaking about, but instead of having a shared database, now they actually managed to have each cluster node with its own copy of the data on its own storage. We still need the quorum. So what they have done, they came out with a witness share instead of having access to a direct storage LAN or something. So usually they recommend to put this witness share on the hub transport. So you have a hub whether I forgot to say, you can combine these roles on the same server or you can separate them. It's up to you, up to your design. Here in SIGA we have mailbox separated and we're combining client and hub. And so we have the CA server, CA01B I believe. This is client server, client access plus hub transport. And then we have the ML01V, this is the mailbox. So now you can have a cluster with a mailbox. You just need a share on the hub transport server, and it will do the same job of the quorum. If they both can see it and they can see each other, everything is fine. If I can't see the other server, can I see the share? Is it me who's got disconnected, or is the other server who's